Ms. Rallabandi, thank you so much for being here today.
Pleasure was all mine.
My first question to you, the theme for today, the day is about general counsels.
Right.
It's about GCs. So my first question to you is, I want to understand how has the role of GCs been different from, let's say, last few years? And that being said, it's also a thing that the role of GCs has increased. Their role in the day-to-day operations, deeper strategy roles has also increased their involvement, overall
Right.
involvement. How do you see that panning out in the next few years?
See, I tell you what, there's definitely been a paradigm shift of how a GC is considered now. Their role maybe a couple of years back where they were probably looked upon like any other legal counsel who were there just to reactively assist the company, right? If there was a problem or a situation or a mess, the general counsel and it was a very lean team then. Obviously, probably you just had one head of legal or probably maybe at the max two lawyers who would just look at contracts, and if there was any mess that happened or a compliance perspective that went wrong, that's when they were approached. But that mindset has definitely taken a paradigm shift. Now you actually see they're not such leaner teams, there are bigger teams because organizations and the management have realized that the office of the general counsel, as we call the OGC, plays a very important strategic role in a company's overall journey, right? At the end of the day, because they are actually considered as trusted advisors, they are no more considered reactive. And this role has evolved because the GCs themselves have actually changed their own perception. They're wanting to grow, they're wanting a seat at the table. And for them, understand the business to be an effective lawyer, you need to understand business. That's what is the most important thing for any lawyer. Because if you don't understand the business, you're not advising them. You're not just simply there to redline a document. So
Right.
they have become very proactive. They have started understanding business. They have started giving solutions. So
Okay.
that's one, shift that has happened. So they are now more proactive advisors rather than reactive. So that's one thing that has happened over the last couple of years. The other thing that they've started doing is they've started being a part of the day-to-day operations by demonstrating the fact they can be trusted to give sound advice. So let's say if you're going to a newer geography or you're launching a newer product, people would just do everything, and then if they hit a roadblock, they would come back to the GC to say, look, we've hit a roadblock, what do we do now?
Okay.
But that's not what is happening now. So the moment they're going into a newer geography, or let's say they want to come up with a newer product, or they have a different vision, the very first thing they do is they actually contact the OGC to understand. They give them the idea. They are like involved as a co-owner of that project from day one, the inception of the idea, even to the extent where they actually come to you for an idea. It's like taking ideas into an action, right? And that's how the role has evolved. And I've even seen the management, they actually come to the GCs or the OGCs just to even bounce off ideas as to how a risk can be taken. So that has definitely involved. Next couple of years, where I see us going is obviously having not only a seat at the table from an executive leadership role, but also being a part of the board of directors. Because we as lawyers who have now emerged as trusted advisors, we also know the business well. We can think probably much more further and anticipate issues because we have to constantly stay updated with law, right? We're able to anticipate any further laws that may come up and how proactively they may affect the company. And India now being the hub of cross-border, transactions, especially investments now with China's downfall, there's a lot of emphasis from foreign firms, PEs, venture capitalists, or other to invest in India. So there again, the OGC's office is playing a very important role where they're just looking at the entire health of the company as well as being the strategic advisor. So that's where I feel that the companies or the management will have the OGC at each and every step with them. It's like initially, if you see, it was the most important function in GNA, not a revenue owner, was probably the CFO's office. But now there's an equal importance in the OGC is what I am, and I don't think so they'll be able to function without this particular stream.
Okay. The ESG front as well is a is an aspect that has been given a lot of emphasis recently.
Right.
How are GCs ensuring that they excel on that front?
See, again, that is something which is very, very crucial and important for all companies. It's a very well known fact that companies which have a healthy ESG aspect trade better at stock markets if it's a publicly listed company, or if a company is, anyways, forget public listed company, as we are attracting investors, that has become the most important or crucial element for any investor into an investee. So it's
Right.
very, very important for all companies to stay absolutely healthy. Now, as a general counsel of the company, one, I understand the business very better. Two, the fact is that they're aware of all laws. They're always updated. They also understand the governance aspect of this entire, function, right? Whether it's formation of committees, keeping the board appraised of the functions, because it is your duty to let the board know what the issues are, how they can be compliant, what are different kinds of risk elements that you need to take care of, how do you go about mitigating those risks, whether there are any laws coming up, how do you ensure that you are updated and you anticipate and actually bring in the guardrails for us to stay absolutely healthy. See, ESG is like three, right? You have your environment, you have your social, and your governance. Governance is something which lawyers, anyways, are very well versed with. Even from a social perspective, social is all about your diversity, exclusion, right? There again, you play a very crucial role with your people team to ensure all
Right.
that. Finally, what is left is the environment, which generally people have it saying that's the department of the health and safety department or the sustainability department. Believe me, lawyers are the ones who are actually driving them. In my own organization, I drive that at my end, right? I
Okay.
am working with lawyers. I am sitting down with them to understand what are we looking at carbon footprints. Let's say we decide from a sustainability environment perspective that we need to have lesser of carbon footprints. How do you go around that? You look at your travel and expense policies, right? And you start working on those to reduce those. How do you look at other governance aspect? How do you look at e-waste management? Right? These are all the part of your E. But as a lawyer, it is a very important role for me to ensure that those are followed through having those SOPs and policies in place. So a lawyer's role becomes very crucial there in that aspect.
Speaking of diversity, as a GC, your role is also to ensure that there is diversity in the workforce, especially when it comes to women employees. How do you ensure something that critical?
You know what? My function is the one which had the most of the women employees. And in fact, to have diversity, I had to hire male employees. And I was
Okay.
on lookout for male employees. But that apart, my organization per se, we are very high on DE&I. It is very, very important that for us, it's just not about women employees. My organization is very, very clear on any kind of other aspects of the diversity function we can get in, whether it's the pride thing that we are looking at, whether it's the mentally challenged or physically challenged people. So we always have these. So we have different employee work groups in our organization, and each of the executive leader is a sponsor of those work groups. For example, we have the Women of We, which is basically on women empowerment and ensuring that we have enough diversity. We have the Parents of We, where we ensure that returning mothers or new mothers are able to work for us. We also have the We Care, where people who are stressed out, how we can give them some mental wellness things. We have the Pets of We. So we have different, or the Pride of We, which is for LGBTQ plus communities. So we ensure all that, and as an organization, that's something that we believe has to be inculcated top down. So each and every executive leader of ours is the sponsor of such ERGs, and it's a top down approach that we have in the organization.
Okay. We usually see that more often than not, unfortunately, these ideas, these initiatives are mostly gimmicks that companies start to, I don't know, look good or give a better impression in front of the employees. How do you make sure that these initiatives are actually have a tangible result?
So, see, that can't be a single person's function, right? At the end of the day, as I said, it is a top-down approach, and it's the leadership
Right.
in a company which has to totally embrace that at their end. Once they embrace this, it becomes the OKR of, especially with our people team, like others call it the HR, we call it the people team.
Okay.
Our people team also ensures that this is something that is percolated down to each and every division. As I said, each of our function heads they also look through it. It's a part of their goals and OKRs of at least the people team to ensure that we have enough diversity in every manner. We do not, we have women washrooms, I'm just giving an example, but the other one is a gender neutral bathroom for us. We do not have something called the male bathrooms.
Okay.
We ensure we have gender neutral bathrooms.
All right.
We also ensure we talk to teams, we look at whenever there's a new hire that is to be done, we do look at the fact that what is the gender equality there or what is the other equalities. We go ahead and try to have those. We work a lot with other organizations where we even go ahead and we have a couple of transgenders also in our office. We've literally hired them. So that's ingrained in the culture of the company, and that's
Right.
how you can drive that.
Right. Okay, last question. This is more relevant to the private law firm, but I still want your opinion on it. The law firms from other countries are now allowed to operate in India. How do you think that will affect the legal landscape in the country in the years to come?
It'll really depend on the BCI rules for the matter. For the timing, if I leave those BCI rules aside, because I think there was just a knee-jerk reaction of having those rules in place because it was suddenly agreed that we'll have them. I don't think so. Thought process went into it clearly. But if I leave those rules aside, my personal feeling is it's going to be a game changer for us. The very first thing I'd say is from a talent perspective. Right now, we lose a lot of our talent to firms outside India, right? Because all these youngsters, they're good, like with the kind of law schools that we have, whether it's the NLS, whether you have the OP Jindal Global Law School, whether it's the Symbiosis. We have amazing talent that's coming out. And the aim of these students more often than not is to just go out, get a job there because they think they've got better exposure. The moment you have these foreign law firms coming in, again, disclaimer, not with the current BCI rules, but generally I'm talking, obviously you can homegrow your talent. When you have that homegrown talent in-house, then it's great, right? You don't have to let people go out because they get the opportunity, they can work on desks, they can learn foreign laws, the exposure that they want, the exchange programs. That is one way of retaining our talent. Two is also from a competitive perspective. Right now, when I was working with a couple of law firms in India and I needed some opinions, whether it was in the UK or in the US, because I wasn't working with any of them directly, I had to depend on the local law firms to get me those. And I was at their discretion, right? At their mercy to pick up a law firm, and then
Right.
they are the ones who are actually working on the courts and all. But no, the moment you have those foreign law firms coming in, I have direct access to them.
Right.
And they'll also be extremely competitive because they know that they can't probably compete with an Indian law firm for the Indian laws, but at least there can be some kind of a traction wherein they'll give you competitive rates, right? Right now, the rates of any foreign law firm are like skyrocketing. So the moment they come into India and they know they have to compete, definitely the rates are going to come down, and obviously they'll also get the best of their talent because if they have to capture the market, then it can't be any second grade law firm that comes
Right.
in or second grade talent that comes in.
Right.
So that again I think is going to be extremely beneficial for us, and even for our Indian law firms. Right now they are monopolies, right? The tier 1, tier 2 firms, they are monopolies. You just go by what they say, and I'm not saying they're not good. They're definitely good. That's the reason they're at tier 1, tier 2. But with the entry of these firms, the smaller firms and all these smaller firms are the ones which are most often than not, again, branched out of those tier 1, tier 2 firms and set up their own firms. They also get an opportunity to showcase their talents, and I think it's going to be very competitive, and overall I feel it's going to be extremely beneficial for all of us.
Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us. Pleasure chatting with you.
Thank you so much. Amazing speaking. Thank you.